Ryne Sandberg, the next Cubs legend to get a statue. Cubs start a series with the Astros, their first time coming to Wrigley since they moved to the American League. Jed Hoyer laughing at his bullpen, that and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure you guys throw us a like, subscribe to our channel, and give us a thumbs up just so we can keep throwing Cubs content at you and keep talking about the team that we love. Here is your invitation to our channel. What do you say, everybody? Welcome back to the Cubs Baseball Channel. Got a fun show for you guys today. Of course, my name is Anthony Pasquale on the socials at AntPasquale3. Now, today, the Cubs start their series against the Astros at Wrigley Field. According to our calculations, the first time the Astros are coming back to Wrigley since they were a National League team. Remember those days? It's certainly something that is hard to remember even existed in our world, but it did. And the Cubs start a series with them after splitting that series with the Marlins, including splitting the doubleheader with the Marlins on Saturday. I was at the game on Saturday. That's why you've missed me the last few days on the channel. Mick is traveling today with the Smokies. So I've got your show today, and there's a lot of great news to get into, some other topics that we can talk about. But first of all, let's get into the really good news. Ryne Sandberg will be the next Cubs legend to get a statue at Wrigley Field, and they're going to do it on Sandberg Day. They officially announced on Monday that Sandberg is the next Cub to get a statue. The statue unveiling is, of course, going to be on June 23rd, the anniversary of the famous Ryne Sandberg game when he hit 2 homers off Hall of Fame closer Bruce Sutter and sent the Cubs tying the game that they eventually won. Of all the Cubs legends, you've got Ernie, you've got Ron Santo, you've got Fergie Jenkins, Billy Williams. The thing about Ryne Sandberg that I think is so cool and why so many people have fallen in love with Ryno over the years is the fact that he has a game. There is no Ron Santo game. There's no Fergie Jenkins game, but there's a Ryne Sandberg game. And that was kind of when he cemented his legend. And then it only got better from there, winning an MVP. And of course, he's been very involved in the organization since. Of course, battling cancer right now, but he was at the game over the weekend. Great to see him at Wrigley, and he'll be immortalized at Wrigley forever coming up, which brings us to an interesting question. Who's next for a statue? Andre Dawson, Greg Maddux, Anthony Rizzo, Theo, Joe Madden, Ben Zobrist, Chris Bryant. Who do you guys think? Let us know in the comments who you think is next for a Cubs statue. My personal guess and what I would like to see is some type of statue compiling the last out. So maybe it's Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant hugging. They need some type of statue to commemorate the World Series championship because, yes, Ryne Sandberg, legend. Andre Dawson, a legend. That's why his number's up there. Greg Maddux, his number's up there for a reason. Ernie, Ronnie, Fergie, they all have statues. They're all legends. Nobody's arguing that. But the one thing none of those guys did is win a World Series. So you need to have that in stone, in immortalization at Wrigley Field. So that's what I would like to see. I think because of the way their careers have all unfolded, it'd be tough to give any single player from that team a statue, especially since none of them are still Cubs with the exception of Kyle Hendricks. But I think a combination statue commemorating that team. Doesn't matter how many players you use, but I think Bryant and Rizzo have to be included. That would be what I would go with. Let's switch gears a little bit back into the current Cubs here. 13-9 after a tough series with the Marlins. It's not a bad place to be. They're currently on pace for well over 90 wins. And I think if anybody told you at the beginning of the season the Cubs are going to win over 90 games, you'd be absolutely, I'll take it for sure, no matter what. The thing that's so frustrating right now is that at this point in the season, I think we could all agree the Cubs should be better than this. I think you look back to the opening day game that they blew a save against Texas. You think of the game on the road trip against San Diego up 8-0, and you end up losing that one. You think about that topsy-turvy game in Arizona that the Cubs trailed, came back and led 11-8 and then lost 12-11 in extras. And then you think about game one of that doubleheader on Saturday against the Fish, where the Cubs led all the way into the ninth inning and blew that one against a team that is arguably the worst in the National League. So you take those four, and all of a sudden you're 17-4 with the best record in baseball. You're a few pitches away from being that. That's why you cannot be too upset with the Cubs right now. That being said, the bullpen continues to present itself as a problem. And my old baseball coach used to say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's what the Cubs are doing with this bullpen right now. It's insane. By definition, what the Cubs are doing in this bullpen is insane. They keep trotting out guys that have had not a lot of success, and they're expecting different results. By rule, by definition, that's insane. And that's why we teased this at the beginning of the show. Jed Hoyer laughs at his bullpen. Well, when I was at the game on Saturday with my brother, we saw him walking from Wrigley toward the parking lot, and my brother shouts, "Jed, we need bullpen arms." And what did he do? He laughed at us. I think it was all in good fun, a general manager talking to the fans, but it has to be said, even though 13-9 isn't a bad place to be, this bullpen is the reason you're not 17-4. And you can blame Jed, you can blame maybe Ricketts, but the fact of the matter is the Cubs didn't add enough to this bullpen before this season. And sure, they're getting some great production right now from Ben Brown. Keegan Thompson's been really good since coming back from the minor leagues. But the only reason those guys are up is because of injuries or guys like Jose Cuas and Daniel Palencia struggling so bad. So you got to figure out this bullpen, and you got to do it fast because you can't afford to be dropping games that are very winnable. And it doesn't matter that it's not August or September. These games matter just as much now. And if you have 4 more wins, maybe you don't need to do or die in August or September. So you got to focus on getting this bullpen right. You got to focus on getting Kyle Hendricks right. I think everybody knows that, not to hamper on the guy, but you got to give yourself a better chance to win. And right now, Kyle isn't that. I do have faith that he can correct things, but there's only so much of a leash you can give him when you know that every time he goes out there, you need to score 6, 7, 8 runs just to win a ball game. And the same thing goes for that bullpen. I love Adbert Alzolay. I think he's a great guy. I've interviewed him before, and he was nothing but respectful. And I love the fist bump, and I love how emphatic and passionate he is about the Cubs and when the Cubs win. But right now, in that 9th inning, he's a guy that I'm very nervous when he goes out there. Hector Neris, too. The problem is there's not a guy that if you put him out there for the 9th, I'm not nervous. So we'll see how they shake things out. I do think Adbert can get right as well, but similar to Hendricks, you can't keep putting him out there right now until you're confident in him because you can't keep losing games that you should win. 13-9 is good. It's solid. It's on pace for the playoffs. But 17-4, that's on pace for contending. And that's where the Cubs want to be. And frankly, where they should be with this roster. So it'll be something to keep an eye on for sure, how the Cubs handle it. So far, no roster moves have been announced before this series with the Astros. That gets going this afternoon. But the fact of the matter is the Cubs need to figure out this bullpen if they want to keep winning games and eventually win the National League Central title this year. Want to talk really quickly about Ian Happ. He was sidelined for both games of the doubleheader and available off the bench Sunday. Then with the off day Monday, he should be good to go back in the Cubs lineup today. That's the plan for Ian Happ. I know Mick mentioned it yesterday. Justin Steele threw a live BP at Wrigley Field, and on Friday he'll be pitching in Arizona in an extended spring training game as he tries to work his way back to the Cubs rotation. And Seiya Suzuki, who is off to a blistering start this season before his oblique injury, is starting to get back into some baseball activities. So that's another thing to keep our eyes on is, both Steele and Suzuki, two of the Cubs' premier players, work their way back and get ready to come back and help this team contend and get better as the season wears along. But like we said, the Cubs start a series with the Astros today. 6:40 p.m. is when the game starts Central Time. Like we said, the Astros' first time coming back to town since they were in the National League. It's kind of crazy to think about. It's been almost, or I think a little over 10 years, and they haven't played at Wrigley since, but it'll be nice to see. an old rivalry get renewed here at Wrigley. The Cubs have officially announced their probables. Jordan Wicks gets game 1. He's 0-2 with a 5.29, but has been elite at missing bats this year. He leads the Cubs in strikeouts, something not a lot of people would have expected out of your 4 or 5 starter. You'd like to see him go a little bit deeper into games, but he's been effective thus far. Game 2, Jameson Taillon, 1-0 on the year with a 1.8, back from injury. Hope to see if we could get him a little bit further into the ball game, but he was very effective in his season debut. And I'm expecting more of the same from Taillon against an Astros team that has struggled mightily to open the season in 2024. Then Javi Assad gets the last game of the series on Thursday, before the Cubs head to Boston for the weekend. Houston hasn't officially released their probables, but this is who it looks like. JP France gets game 1. He has struggled so far for him, 0-2 with a 7.08 ERA on the year. He'll be starting tonight, we believe. Justin Verlander gets the game on Wednesday. Future Hall of Famer was injured to start the year. He's had 1 start, and it was a good one. He won that game, so he's 1-0 with a 3 ERA. He will likely be matched up against Taillon on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we said Assad. It'll likely be Ronel Blanco for the Astros. Started the season, I believe, 13 or 14, 15 innings straight without giving up a hit. His first start of the year was a no-hitter, so we'll keep an eye on him. He's having a great start to the season so far. But that's the Cubs-Astros series. Looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. Like we said, we always appreciate anything you guys add to our show in the comments, and if you got any questions, you can drop them on there, and we'll try to get to them on our next couple of shows. But thank you guys so much for your attention, for liking, subscribing, passing it along to your Cubs friends, everything that you do that helps make this show so fun and possible. Me and Mick will be back with you guys tomorrow. Thanks again. Cubs Baseball Channel. Don't forget it.